So Parikshit Maharaj is asking, please explain me unto me how the living beings are generated, how they're maintained, and how they're annihilated. Tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotion service unto the Lord. So there are disadvantages also. I didn't know that. What are the Vedic rituals and injunctions of the supplementary Vedic rites? And what are the procedures of religion, economic development, and sense gratification? Samplava, in the sense of perfect means, is employed to denote the discharging of devotion service. And Prati Samplavaha means just the opposite, that which destroys the progress of devotion service. One who is firmly situated in devotion service of the Lord can very easily execute the functions of conditional life. Living the conditional life is just like plying a boat in the middle of the ocean. One is completely at the mercy of the ocean. And at every moment, there is every chance of being drowned in the ocean by slight agitation. If the atmosphere is all right, the boat can ply very easily, undoubtedly. But if there is some storm, fog, wind, or cloud, there is every possibility of being drowned in the ocean. No one can control the whims of the ocean, however, one may be materially well equipped. One who has crossed the ocean by ship may have sufficient experience of such dependence upon the mercy of the ocean. But one can fly over the ocean of material existence by the grace of the Lord very easily, without any fear of storm or fog. It all depends on the will of the Lord. No one can help if there is some unfortunate danger in the state of conditional life. The devotees of the Lord, however, cross the ocean of material existence without anxiety because a pure devotee is always protected by the Lord. The Lord gives special attention to his devotees in their activities within material conditional life. Therefore, everyone should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and be a pure devotee of the Lord by all means. So, Prati Samplava, Prabhupada explains, it's not what are the disadvantages of discharging, it is what is it that destroys the progress of devotion service. So then he explained very nicely about the devotion service. Is the like living in the material world in a conditional life is just like taking a boat into the ocean. So one who is on a ship or a little boat in the ocean is completely at the mercy of the ocean. He has no control over it. And Prabhupada himself had personal experience of when he went to America by Jalduta. And he knew there is nothing anybody could do when the boat is in the ocean. They're completely at the mercy of the ocean. And if there is any storm, fog, wind, cloud, there's nothing one can do in the ocean. That's why even by that time, the standards, the safest boat, Titanic, when it went on sale for the first time, they said even God cannot sink this boat. And the very first voyage, it just hit the iceberg and sank. That's it. So material world is like that. It's like an ocean, Bhavsagar. But if somebody has taken shelter of the Lord, that's a Prabhupada writing. The devotees of the Lord, however, cross the ocean of material existence without anxiety, because a pure devotee is always protected by the Lord. The Lord gives special attention to his devotees in their activities within material conditional life. So even not just the spiritual life, Lord takes care of the material conditional life also of his devotees. That's a special mercy on his devotees. One should know, therefore, from the expert spiritual master, the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotion service, just as Maharaj Parikshit asked his spiritual master, Srila Shukdev Goswami. According to Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, the science of devotion service, one should not eat more than what he requires to maintain body and soul together. Vegetable diets and milk are sufficient for maintenance of the human body, and therefore one has no need to eat anything more to satisfy the palate. One should also not accumulate money to become puffed up in the material world. One should earn his livelihood easily and honestly, for it is better to become a coolie for an honest livelihood than to become a great man in society by hook and crook. There is no harm if one becomes the richest man in the world by honest dealings, but one should not sacrifice the honest means of livelihood simply to accumulate wealth. Such an endeavor is harmful to devotion service. One should not talk nonsense. A devotee's business to earn the favor of the Lord. Therefore, a devotee should always glorify the Lord in his wonderful creations. A devotee should not decry the creation of the Lord, defying him by saying that he has created a false world. The world is not false. Factually, we have to take so many things from the world for maintenance. So how can we say this world is false? Similarly, how can one think of the Lord as being without form? How can one become formless and at the same time have all intelligence and consciousness, direct and indirect? So there are many things for a pure devotee to learn, and he should learn them perfectly from a bona fide personality like Shukdev Goswami. So Prabhupada gives some example of things that are favorable for devotion service. Um, Actually, it is mentioned in Nectar of Instruction, Atyahar Prayasascha Prajalpo Niyamagrah Jansangascha Lolyamcha Shadbhir Bhaktir Vinashyati. In Atyahar, eating or collecting more than necessary, Prayasascha, over endeavoring for material accumulations or material um, entitlements. Prajalpo, Prajalpo means gossiping, unnecessary. We sit down and gossip and waste time. Nimagraha. Now, Nimagraha has two meanings. Following the rules and rituals, but without knowing the importance of it. Or second is not following the rules for devotion service. Prajalpo Nimagra Jansangascha. Jansangash means taking association of worldly minded, materialistic people. And Lolyamcha. Lolya means having excessive greed for material things, material positions, material uh, accumulations. So this will destroy one's bhakti. And this is what Prabhupada is saying. One should just earn his livelihood by honest, simple means. But in this world of keeping up with Sharmas and Varmas, it's very difficult to do so. But this is the test. If we can keep our life very simple and honest, and don't have a crooked disposition towards everybody, towards the world, towards even karmis, and towards our relatives, towards devotees. If one is very simple, he can make progress in bhakti very easily. Of course, this doesn't mean the problems will not come. Problems will always be there. But those are Krishna's special mercy on the devotees to make him more and more surrendered. That's all. The favorable conditions for discharging devotion service are that one should be very enthusiastic in serving the Lord. The Lord, in his form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wanted the cult of devotion service to the Lord to be preached all over the world, in every nook and corner, and therefore a pure devotee's duty is to discharge this order as far as possible. Every devotee should be very enthusiastic, not only in performing his daily rituals of devotion service, but in trying to preach the cult peacefully by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. So now the favorable things for devotional service, which are Utsahat, Nishyad, Dharyat, Tat Tat Karma Pravartanat, Sangatyaga, Satovritte, Shadbir Bhaktir, Prasiddhiti. So Utsahat means one should have enthusiasm, Nishyad, determination, Dharyat, patience, Tat Tat Karma Pravartanat, Sangatyaga, Satovritte. And one should follow the rules and regulations. Sangatyaga, again, take no association with worldly minded people. Sattva-vritti means having association with the saintly people, saintly devotees. If he is not superficially successful in such an attempt, he should not be deterred from the discharge of his duty. Success or failure has no meaning for a pure devotee because he is a soldier in the field. Preaching the cult of devotion service is something like declaring war against materialistic life. There are different kinds of materialists, such as fruitive workers, mental speculators, mystic jugglers, and so many others. All of them are against the existence of Godhead. They would declare that they are themselves God, although in every step and in every action they're dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Therefore, a pure devotee may not associate with such gangs of atheists. So, association, in both the verses, association is very much stressed upon. So, we have to make sure we associate with right minded people, devotees, in fact. A strong devotee of the Lord will not be misled by such atheistic propaganda of the non devotees, but a neophyte devotee should be very cautious about them. A devotee should see to the right discharge of devotion service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master and should not stick only to the formalities. Under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one should see how much service is being executed and not simply in the matter of rituals. So, our devotional service should not be just some rituals, just like chanting. We have to really put our heart into chanting. Put our really as much endeavor as possible and more into chanting. Chanting is the whole basis of our devotion service, of our devotion life, of our progress in devotion life. So it should not be just a ritual, just like we're chanting, Are kitna, 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 Are. Means we're just chanting like, Kitna ho gaya and kitna reh gaya. The chanting should be really coming from the bottom of our heart, thinking with feelings, with emotions, with a prayerful mood, with begging mood. Oh Radha, oh Krishna, please engage me in your service. We should remind us every day, this chanting is my lifeline actually. So it should not be a ritual only, it should be spiritual. Means with prayers it should come out. So we should not be just finishing our rounds. Actually, we finish our rounds. We have to chant. So, and other services also, but because chanting is the most important service, that's why I stress on chanting so much. A devotee should not hanker after anything, but he should be satisfied with things that may automatically come to him by the will of the Lord. That should be the principle of a devotional life. And all these principles are easily learned under the guidance of a spiritual master like Shukdev Goswami. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukdev correctly, and one should follow his example. Maharaj Parikshit inquired about the process of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world, the process of Vedic rituals, and the method of executing pious activities in terms of the supplementary Vedas like the Puranas and Mahabharata. As explained before, the Mahabharata is a history of ancient India, and so also are the Puranas. Pious acts are prescribed in the supplementary Vedas, Smritis, which specifically mention digging tanks and wells for the water supply of the people in general, to plant trees on public roads, to construct public temples and places of worship of God, to establish places of charity, where the poor, destitutes can be provided with foodstuff and similar activities are called purta. Purta means pious activities. So Maharaj Parikshit is inquiring about everything. Similarly, the process of fulfilling the natural desires for sense gratification was also inquired by the king for the benefit of all concerned. But obviously, Srimad Bhagavatam, since it deals with pure devotion service, Shukdev Goswami. Let's see what he answers, how he answers this later on. 2822. Yo vamushyainam sarga pashandasya cha sambhava atmanabandha moksho cha vyasthanam swarupatah. Please also explain how, merged in the body of the Lord, living beings are created, and how the infidels appear in the world. And also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist. The progressive devotee of the Lord must inquire from the bona fide spiritual master how living entities merged in the body of the Lord again come back at the time of creation. There are two kinds of living entities. There are the ever liberated, unconditioned living beings, as well as the ever conditioned living beings. Of the ever conditioned living beings, there are two divisions. They are the faithful and the infidels. Infidels means those who don't have faith. Of the faithful, there are again two divisions, namely the devotees and the mental speculators, or the jnanis. The mental speculators desire to merge into the existence of the Lord or to become one with the Lord, whereas the devotees of the Lord desire to keep separate identities and constantly engage in the service of the Lord. The devotees who are not fully purified, as well as the empiric philosophers, become conditioned again during the next creation for further purification. Such conditioned souls become liberated by further progress of devotion service to the Lord. Maharaj Parikshit asked all these questions from the bona fide spiritual master in order to become fully equipped in the science of God. So there are two kinds of living entities, conditioned and unconditioned. Now, conditioned we know they are the Baddha Atmas, which we are those. So unconditioned are then Prabhupada said there are again two divisions, devotees and jnanis. Of course, in jnanis also come the yogis or those who do Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. And then there are the devotees. And in conditioned living entities, there are two kinds, faithful and unfaithful. So there are so many different kinds of jivas all over the world. And Maharaj Parikshit is asking how everybody comes into being. Text 23. Yathatma tantro bhagwan vikridati atmamayaya vistrijya yapa yathamayam adasate sakshivat vibhu. The independent personality of Godhead enjoys his pastimes by his internal potency, and at the time of annihilation gives them up to the external potency, and he remains a witness to it all. Lord Shri Krishna, being the supreme personality of Godhead and fountainhead of all of the incarnations, is the only independent person. He enjoys his pastimes by creation as he desires and gives them up to the external energy at the time of annihilation. By his internal potency only, he kills the demon Putna, even though enjoying his pastimes in the lap of his mother Yashoda. And when he desires to leave this world, he creates the pastimes of killing his own family members, Yadukula, and remains unaffected by such annihilation. He is a witness of everything that is happening, and yet he has nothing to do with anything. He is independent in every respect. Maharaj Parikshit desired to know more perfectly, for a pure devotee ought to know well. So this is the position of Krishna. He is supremely independent. Although he appears to be dependent, but he is completely independent. Appears to be dependent means because he loves his devotees so much, he appears that he is dependent on his devotees. In one way, he is dependent on the love of his devotees. That's something he cannot live without. But otherwise, he is completely independent in his position, in his pastimes, in everything. He's independent. He's not dependent on anybody. 2824. Sarvam etaccha bhagavan prachato me anupurvasha tatvato arhasi udahartum prapanmaya mahamune. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you, and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. So this is the beauty of asking questions. Maharaj Parikshit is saying of Shukdev Goswami, you are a representative of the Lord. So please satisfy me by answering whatever I have asked and whatever I did not ask because of my faults, my conditioning, or my less intelligence. See, this way one pleases the spiritual master. That the disciple approaches a spiritual master in the way showing him he's a full number one, and that's when he can expect the mercy of the Guru. The spiritual master is always prepared to impart knowledge to the disciple, and specifically when the disciple is very inquisitive. Inquisitiveness on the part of a disciple is greatly necessary for the progressive disciple. Maharaj Parikshit is a typical disciple because he's perfectly inquisitive. If one is not very inquisitive about self realization, one need not approach a spiritual master simply to make a show of discipleship. Not only is Maharaj Parikshit inquisitive concerning all he has inquired about, but he's also anxious to know about what he has not been able to inquire. Factually, it's not possible for a man to inquire about everything from the spiritual master. But the bona fide spiritual master is able to enlighten the disciple in every way for the disciple's benefit. So this is a quality of a guru, of a spiritual bona fide spiritual master. He is able to enlighten the disciple in every way for his benefit. Text 25. Atra pramanam hi bhavo parameshti yathatma bhu apare chanu tishtanti purvesham purvajah kritam. O great sage, you are as good as Brahma, the original living being. Others follow customs only, followed by the previous philosophical speculators. It may be argued that Shukdev Goswami is not the only authority of perfect knowledge and transcendence, because there are many other sages and their followers. Contemporary to Vyasadeva or even prior to him, there are many great sages such as Gautam, Kannad, Jaimini, Kapil, Ashtavakra, and all of them have presented a philosophical path by themselves. Patanjali is also one of them, and all these six great rishis have their own way of thinking, exactly like the modern philosophers and mental speculators. The difference between the six philosophical paths put forward by the renowned sages above mentioned and that of Shukdev Goswami as presented in Srimad Bhagavatam is all the six sages mentioned above speak the facts according to their own thinking. But Shukdev Goswami presents a knowledge which comes down directly from Brahmaji, who is known as Atma Bhu, or born of and educated by the Almighty Personality of Godhead. So there are many sages sitting in that assembly, but he is addressing, Parikshit Maharaj addressing Shukdev Goswami that you are as good as Brahma. So you please explain it. As good as Brahma because Shukdev Goswami is coming in that parampara. Brahmaji to Narad Muni to Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva to Shukdev Goswami. Vedic transcendental knowledge descends directly from the personality of Godhead. By his mercy, Brahma, the first living being in the universe, was enlightened. And from Brahmaji, Narad was enlightened. And from Narad, Vyasadeva was enlightened. Shukdev Goswami received such transcendental knowledge directly from his father, Vyasadeva. Thus, the knowledge being received from the chain of disciplic succession is perfect. One cannot be a spiritual master in perfection unless and until one has received the same by disciplic succession. That's the secret of receiving transcendental knowledge. So 6 great sages mentioned above may be great thinkers, but their knowledge by mental speculation is not perfect. However perfect an empiric philosopher may be in presenting a philosophical thesis, such knowledge is never perfect because it is produced by an imperfect mind. Means all the conditioned souls in the material world, they have 4 defects. They're illusion, they want to cheat others, they have imperfect mind and imperfect senses. Such great sages also have their disciplic successions, but they are not authorized because such knowledge does not come directly from the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narayan. No one can be independent except Narayan. Therefore, no one's knowledge can be perfect, for everyone's knowledge is dependent on the flickering mind. So our knowledge is always imperfect, and the so-called teachers that we meet and we get the knowledge from, that knowledge is always imperfect because our minds have these defects, our senses have the defects. Mind is material, and thus knowledge presented by material speculators is never transcendental and can never become perfect. Mundane philosophers, being imperfect in themselves, disagree with other philosophers because a mundane philosopher is not a philosopher at all unless he presents his own theory. So mundane philosophers are always competing against each other. But in spiritual world or in the spiritual knowledge, Narad Muni never competed with Brahmaji. Vedyas never competed with Narad Muni because they get the mercy, they get the knowledge from the disciplic succession, and they're happy with it. They don't have to bring out their own philosophy or bring out their own theories to show how much they know, how well they know, and how good their knowledge of scriptures is. There's no such competition. Intelligent persons like Maharaj Parikshit do not recognize such mental speculators, however great they may be, but hear from authorities like Shukdev Goswami, who's non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the Parampara system, as is specifically stressed in the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll stop here, see anybody have any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in fact, on the previous verses we read wherein, in fact, Brahmaji had told Naradji to kind of now expand this knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, it has. Is it that now in the disciplic succession that knowledge has been expanded, basis the realization of all these great sages or?
Yes, it has expanded in terms of realization, but not in terms of shlokas.
Okay.
So, like Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath, they didn't write the shlokas. Okay, Narad Muni, Shukdev Goswami, Vedyas, they introduced shlokas in Srimad Bhagavatam. But these acharyas, they didn't. They just elaborated upon the meaning based on the philosophy that they have heard and their own realizations.
And how about these 6 great sages then? So, though they were not in disciplic succession, but when it is stated,
they give different philosophies like Nyaya, and there are 6 topics which they all covered.
so beyond the description of Lord Krishna.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'll you just send a message and I'll try to remember to get who did what.
That clarifies, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank
Prabhuji,
you,
I have a question, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mata.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, it is relating to some practical problems that I have been facing for a long time. It's like, Prabhuji, how do we despite chanting and reading a lot of books of Prabhupada, then how do we still keep a composed mind of ourselves and not try to hurt anybody by our mind, words, and action? I mean, kind of, be it Vaishnavas, be it non-Vaishnavas, anyone. So how to like, despite I'm chanting, as it is said, as you said rightly, ki we are just finishing our rounds. With every morning, I think that today I'll chant properly, but I think it happens how many times, I don't know. So how to keep a composure that you don't lose anything by a message or any other things? If you can,
Yeah.
Prabhuji,
We
throw
have
some light.
we have to practice and we have to pray. Bhakti is all about two things. I mean, practice, our own effort, and mercy of Krishna, which comes when we pray. So any shortcomings that we see in ourselves, so we pray to Krishna, please help me removing it. And we have to practice, we have to work, we have to put extra efforts on it to remove that shortcoming. That's all it is.
So Prabhuji, like, we have to, you mean to say that practice in sense of having a self-control within ourselves and doing, chanting more rounds or reading more, trying to engross into the bhakti by hearing about Krishna's pastimes, like that?
Also, like you said, no, you get disturbed. So practice that you don't get disturbed.
Okay, Prabhuji.
And that chanting reading is good, yes. But any particular shortcoming that one has, he has to work on it. So practice. And at the same time, pray that Krishna, without your mercy, Prabhupada, without your blessings, I cannot do anything. Is that okay? Okay, I guess we can stop here. You all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Thank you very much.